Alright, I'm Callum from Tuesday View, and today I'm joined by Chris from Crayne Games.
G'day. Yep.
Crunchy Games.
Crunchy Games.
That was a bit of a Freudian slip there because Crayne Fractured Empire is the name of the game we're talking about.
That's it.
We're joined by Chris from Crunchy Games. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Callum?
We're pretty good. We're at PAX Australia. Obviously, it's very chaotic. Apologies if there's a lot of background noise coming through.
Very noisy.
We've just played the fantastic Fractured Empire trading card game or deck building game. Before we get into it, would you just give us a brief introduction to yourself, your company, and the game you're presenting today?
Yeah, sure. I'm Chris. My company is Crunchy Games. It's basically me. That's it. I design games. I've always designed games. I love it. And I designed and built Crayne Fractured Empire many years ago. 6 years of playtesting, and then I finally released it about 3 years ago.
That's fantastic. So 6 years is a bit of a journey for a game like this.
Yes.
It's never easy coming up with a game like this because there's so many moving parts.
Yep.
How different is it now from where you started?
Oh, right. Well, when I started, it was playable but broken.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first one that I came up with, one of the factions, the Greenskins, was way overpowered compared to the other ones, and it would win. So basically, it was back to the drawing board, remove some stats there, add some stats somewhere else to something that was weaker, and keep going.
Well, yeah, one of the things about Crayne Fractured Empire is it's incredibly well balanced. Do you want to talk about that process a little more?
Yep. Again, more on that same thing where you play it, you find out, after a few games, you find out which one seems to pull ahead, which one seems to be stronger, which one seems to be weaker, and then you tweak everything in the factions in order to make it a bit more balanced. Yeah. It was 6 years of that process. Got it to where it is.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So for listeners or watchers on YouTube, or listeners at home, this game revolves around deck building through a series of rounds where you have to buy, build, and attack.
Yep.
So you're always essentially building up your army, so to speak, and then destroying it and starting again. So it's almost like a wave-like system of building and destroying.
Yep.
I was intimidated at first when the instructions were being explained to me, but then I found that it was once you actually started to play it, it was very organic.
Yeah. After one round, you kind of get it, didn't you?
Yeah. So was it hard for you to figure out how to balance the mechanics of the game so it's deep enough where you can strategize, and you can also like get other decks and play with the mechanics a bit, while also keeping it easy enough for people to be like, oh, I understand.
Well, originally it had a drafting mechanic at the start, which was added to the complexity of it, and it didn't really add anything to the game. It just was an unnecessary complexity, so we got rid of it.
Yeah. So 6 years is a long time. Is this your first year like at PAX or a convention? Or
we originally came here in 2019 to use the prototype.
Yeah,
and we got a lot of feedback from it, mostly visual design, especially from the visually impaired community. They wanted more input on different shapes and stuff so they could actually distinguish the factions without having to use colors. Yeah. So,
well, that's interesting you say that. One of the coolest parts about your game is the visuals.
The visuals.
It's a beautiful looking game. Everything from just the box art that comes in to the art on the cards. Can you talk about like that process? Did you hire artists to do it yourself, or?
Yes, we did. 6 different artists worked on the base game. From around the world, some in Brazil, the US, and over in Europe. And recruiting for them was, I had produced a role-play book before this, so I was already familiar with artists. I had some artists that I wanted to work with again. Yep. And I also had artists starting to seek me out because I'd already employed artists in the past. So getting the artwork took about 9 months to get all 104 illustrations done.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we got different artists from around the world putting their input into it and their own inspirations.
Well, it looks very cohesive, if you know what I mean. Like it's not like with games like Magic the Gathering, you have like it's dramatically
jarring,
art
isn't it?
styles.
Yeah.
Well, what I like
different.
about this is it all seems to fit in the one world.
That's good. Yeah.
Which is, I mean, some people disagree with me there. Like some people think it's important to have varied art styles. Yeah. But I like to lose myself in the fantasy that is, Fractured Empire, for example.
That's one thing I was worried about when recruiting artists, is that I wanted them all to have the same kind of feel. Yeah. And I was worried that some of them had a different feel. But when you print it out and it's all in that small box, it all seems to work well.
Yeah, because it's like, especially when you get games like this one where it's a fantasy about various factions going up against each other. I think it's important that forgive me for saying it, but I always think like there's wider stories in the universes we play in.
They look like they have to belong.
Yeah, it feels like this in this game where it's like, yes, we're players playing a game, but it also feels like it's a pre-existing fantasy world where we're watching some things play out on the board.
Yeah. Well, it's based on 5,000 years of history of my role-playing games that I played.
Yeah.
So it's the same world that my role-playing game is based in.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's got a lot of history. We were thinking about printing it out and putting it here, but we thought it was too many words. Yeah.
Yeah, it does get that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So where did your history with trading card games and role-playing begin? Like, what was the thing that brought you to this space?
That brought them together? It would have been when I started writing Crayne. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my love for fantasy came in a long time ago. A lot of the basis for this game was based on an old series I used to play called Heroes of Might and Magic.
Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah, that's a fantastic
where I got the
game.
inspiration for the factions and all that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, that's a fun game. Actually, I can kind of see some of that
You can see that? Yeah. It's good, yeah.
That's awesome. So I want to know more about your RPG. Can you talk us about that?
Okay.
See, I'm a huge RPG freak, so you probably should have mentioned that.
I shouldn't have mentioned that. Oh no. It's called Ascendant Destiny. It's a very small audience at the moment. Basically, it's sort of a free-form system that it's meant to be a system that doesn't require a world, so it's supposed to be able to use and be flexible to be used in any kind of system.
Setting agnostic or whatever the phrase is.
And it's experience based. It's not level based. So you use your experience to buy skills.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Then you can, if you've got enough skills, you can buy feats, which add to the skills and
that's cool.
You've got your attributes, your skills, your magic, your spells, and that sort of thing.
It's really interesting. We've been coming to PAX for a while now, and every year we come, the tabletop is bigger and better. And there's more people here, almost to the point where it's going to begin to rival the video game aspect.
It's going to erupt out of the walls soon.
Yeah, no. So every year we when we talk to creators, we say, how does it feel for you to be in the center of what's an exploding movement?
It feels great.
Because it's like, it used to be the realm of just a few people would be into the tabletop stuff. Now it's like it's everywhere. So like, Dungeons and Dragons is bigger than it's ever been. Like all of the Magic the Gathering is as big as it's been for years, but that's a titan.
Yeah.
But it's like the opportunities for you guys are immense at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, how are you capitalizing on that aspect of it?
Well, it's difficult. It's difficult competing with the titans. I won't lie. It's difficult to build an audience. We've been trying for a few years, and coming here is a major help.
Yeah, I bet. Have you had how are you finding the reception so far for Crayne Fractured Empires?
Oh, good. Yeah, people that play it like it, and most people who play it buy it. So it seems to be good. It's rated 8.1 on Board Game Geek. So
good.
The community at large likes it. It has been out for 3 years, so it's had a bit of time to mature.
Yeah. So what's next for yourself and the game? Like, in terms of Crayne Fractured Empires, are there more expansions coming?
There certainly are. I've got another 4 expansions on the way, and I've play tested most of the rules for most of them. 2 of them are almost ready to go.
Any hints about what we can see coming up?
Well, there's definitely Lizardmen with persistence rules where they can last 2 rounds.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay. Yep.
What about next for Crunchy Games? Is there another project on the horizon unrelated to Fractured?
We do have another game that we've been playtesting a little bit. It's about fighting monsters. You're a wizard and you're casting spells and destroying monsters, and you have to try to get the biggest monster possible.
That sounds fun. Well, where can we find you? Are you on socials or website?
Crayne Fractured Empire is on Facebook. We also have Instagram for Crunchy Games, and then there's crunchygames.com.
Fantastic.
Well, that's with a K.
Thank you so much to Chris from Crunchy Games for spending time with us today.
No worries.
It was wonderful.
Thanks for having me.